Today, we're exploring a seriously dark, cautionary tale about the absolute extremes of human desperation. We are talking about a story of crushing poverty, the supernatural, and a terrifying entity known as Mattia. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's unravel this mystery together.
If you try to go against the rules, even I don't know what it will do to you. Man, what a chilling warning to kick things off. These words actually come from a Baga, a practitioner of dark rituals, speaking directly to our protagonist. Right away, you need to know that in this explainer, the stakes aren't just about losing a little bit of money. No, we are dealing with absolute, terrifying matters of life and death. So let's start with Section 1, Poverty and Helplessness.
You know, to really understand how someone could willingly invite a dark curse into their home, we have to look at our protagonist, Mahesh. Try to put yourself in his shoes for a second. He's a man utterly broken by extreme poverty. We're talking about living with a single broken cot, a flickering crooked bulb, and literal near starvation. Meanwhile, right outside his door, the village elites are hoarding generational wealth and social power, keeping people like Mahesh trapped in a dirty, forgotten corner. This kind of agonizing disparity, it fuels a deep resentment that primes him for an unthinkable choice.
But the real turning point happens just 3 days before the festival of Holi. A relative named Madan visits and casually drops a forbidden name into the conversation, Mattia. He tells this crazy story about a man from a neighboring village who was drowning in debt, but after bringing Mattia into his home, miraculously became a wealthy elite in just 3 months. And just like that, this brief little conversation plants a very dark seed in Mahesh's mind. Which brings us to Section 2, the terrifying summoning of Mattia.
Desperate for a way out, Mahesh actually tracks down a Bega willing to help him perform this dark ritual. And the ritual itself, it is deeply unsettling. It goes down on Amavasya, which is a pitch-black new moon night. The Bega draws a white circular boundary, lights a blazing fire pit, and pulls out this creepy black clay doll with long hair. He then slices Mahesh's palm and sprinkles his raw blood right over the doll. As the ritual wraps up, an unnatural freezing chill suddenly fills the suffocating little room. Well, that very night, the entity makes contact. Mahesh falls asleep and is thrust into this terrifying dream. Standing right in front of him is the dark entity, looking exactly like that black clay doll from the ritual, and it demands, "I am hungry. I want meat. Bring me raw meat. You don't have much time." Moving right along to Section 3, Greed and Frightening Conditions. Now, you have to remember, this kind of dark magic isn't a gift. It's a strict, terrifying transaction. So the absolute most crucial thing to understand here is that the rules for keeping Mattia are non-negotiable. Rule 1, Mahesh can never ever worship or host any other gods in his home, period. Rule 2, he must instantly fulfill every single demand Mattia makes in his dreams. If he plays along, the wealth of the village elites transfers directly to him. It's an inescapable trap. But the bait is incredibly tempting. 100,000 rubies. Just imagine that for a second. After that first terrifying dream, Mahesh wakes up to find a beautiful box wrapped in black cloth sitting in his house, containing exactly 1 lakh rupees. For a starving man who had absolutely nothing yesterday, seeing this massive number instantly erases any hesitation he might have had. It totally fuels his rapid descent into pure, unchecked greed. But man, the immediate cost of that wealth is just gruesome. To satisfy that very first demand for raw meat from his dream, Mahesh goes out and sacrifices his newly bought pet goat Chuni. It's such a striking image, the beautiful box of money sitting right next to a pile of bones in the courtyard. It really highlights the terrifying speed at which Mattia delivers wealth in exchange for blood. This brings us to Section 4, Wealth and the Dark Shadow. Once Mahesh gets a taste of that wealth, his greed absolutely takes the wheel, and the entity's demands rapidly escalate. Day 1, as we saw, was an animal sacrifice. But just weeks later, Mahesh eagerly begs for more money. Mattia returns in a dream, but this time demands his wife Smala's new red sari and her entire shringar, her traditional marital symbols. Fast forward a few months, and the demands mutate into bizarre midnight graveyard rituals, and even demands for Mahesh's own blood. Actually, I want to pause on that second sacrifice for a second because it carries immense cultural weight. In their culture, a woman giving up her shringar is an omen of utter devastation. It's something done only when her world is completely ruined.
By demanding these specific symbols, Matya is darkly foreshadowing the inevitable destruction of their entire household. It's a huge red flag that Mahesh completely ignores. Despite all this darkness brewing, Mahesh's physical reality totally transforms. Look at the wild contrast here. Before Matya, Mahesh was a starving outcast living in a dirty corner. After Matya, he's living in a massive mansion right in the center of the village, owning vast businesses. The wealth of the local elites has literally drained away and flowed directly into his pockets. He isn't oppressed anymore, he is actively feared. Of course, the ruined villagers, who are now facing total bankruptcy, confront Mahesh, accusing him of using dark magic to steal their wealth. Drunk on his new power, Mahesh arrogantly threatens to destroy them all. This prompts one of the villagers to issue a grave warning. Excessive ego and greed lead a person to destruction. It's the perfect ominous setup for our final act. And that sets the stage for Section 5, Matya's final demand. In the dead of night, Matya shows up in Mahesh's dream one last time. But this time, no animals, no clothes, no graveyard rituals. The entity demands the ultimate sacrifice, Mahesh's own son. Sheer, paralyzing horror washes over Mahesh as he finally realizes the true, catastrophic price of his endless greed. Waking up in absolute terror, Mahesh fiercely refuses the demand, crying out into the dark, "I don't want any more of my wishes fulfilled." But notice the heartbreaking dramatic irony here. Mahesh genuinely believes that just because he isn't asking for more wealth, he can simply cancel the deal and walk away. He has completely forgotten the inescapable absolute rules established by the Baiga on day 1. Which leads us to our final chapter, Section 6, Ego, Destruction, and End. You see, the curse now flawlessly and mercilessly fulfills itself. Because this dark entity was given space in the house, failing to meet a demand instantly turns the blessing into a deadly curse. The consequence arrives the very next morning. Mahesh awakens, not to a beautiful box of money, but to the agonizing screams of his wife. Matya has taken their son's life in the night. From that exact moment, Mahesh's life completely collapses. All of that ill-gotten wealth and property, it vanishes into thin air. His wife Mala falls incurably ill, and the doctors outright refuse to treat her. Having taken what it wanted, Matya abandons them completely. Even the tantrics and Baba's Mahesh desperately begs for help are utterly powerless against the curse. The Baiga's initial warning from the very beginning of our story proves absolutely, devastatingly correct. And so, we reach the incredibly bleak end of our story. Sometime later, the corpses of Mahesh and Mala are found rotting in their own home. The ultimate crushing irony here is that Mahesh originally sought out this dark magic to elevate his family and secure their future. But instead, his unchecked greed resulted in the complete and total annihilation of his entire lineage forever. Which leaves us with a really haunting final question to think about. Who was the real monster here? Was it the dark entity Matya who was simply acting in its nature? Or was it the boundless destructive capacity of human greed? I want you to think about that as you reflect on this story. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this deep dive leaves you with a lingering sense of curiosity and, honestly, maybe a healthy respect for the unknown. Catch you next time.